Please be seated.
Yes, Mr. Mikulicki.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize, but I realize I forgot to mention one paragraph in this important 15 July interim combat report by Colonel Popović. So if we could go back to that briefly. I talked about the two paragraphs related to the prisoners. But then there's another paragraph underneath that says, I made an offer to the commander of the other side to separate out the civilians and have the others surrender. But he refused, asking that they should all be released together. The situation is still complicated, but under control. Well, at this time, Popović did have radio contact with the command of the Second Corps folks. I believe it was Shemso Muminovic. And they discussed what to do. And Popović apparently made him this offer, which the Muslims weren't going to stand for. And so nothing was resolved. But that is a reference to his contact with the Second Corps to deal with the Muslim 28th Division as they're coming up. He knows that there are civilians amongst them. He knows that there are soldiers. He offers to let the civilians through to keep the soldiers. It has nothing to do with the Muslim men at the schools. Okay, just to make sure that's clear. All right. Now I want to go on to, we're still with Mr. Beara, an intercept of 16 July at 11 hours, Lubil Beara and one Serovich. It's a Colonel Serovich. He is an officer, and probably the duty officer at the Drina Corps Command in Vlasenica. And Serovich calls and says, hey, listen to me, triage report today which taking prisoners. And X says yes. X says to do triage. Serovich says triage has to be done on the prisoners. Now on the 16th, the only prisoners they have are some 1,500 to 2,000 in Pilica. X says, Colonel Beara is right here by me. So we have Colonel Beara at this area, which is the Zvornik Brigade, as you'll soon see. Colonel Beara is right here by me. Serovich will then give me Beara. X says, go ahead. Beara says, yes. Serovich says, Lubio. Beara, I hear you. Serovich, hello, Serovich speaking. Great radio code discipline. Beara says, I hear you. And Serovich says, Turkula was here with me just now, and he was looking for you. I don't know. Beara, yes. Serovich, so he told me he got instructions from above. Now, Turkula is a main staff officer who has been sent to the Drina Corps to provide information about what to do with the prisoners and at Pilica. And he is stopped by the Drina Corps headquarters. And Beara says yes, and Serovich says to do triage on those, and then there's an interrupted. And Beara says, I don't want to talk about it on the phone. Serovich says, okay. Beara says, okay, take care. Well, as we know, triage is a medical term whereby you separate the wounded that have a chance to live and be treated, and the less, and treat them first and save the less serious people till last, or the fatal ones not at all. In this context, we believe it means a darker impression, that triage means we are to kill prisoners. Now, let's go to the next document that will give us a little more information about this. And this is a page out of the duty officer notebook. And from 16 July, the same day as this last intercept, and there's a notation at 11:15 hours. And you recall the intercept was noted as 11 hours. So at about the same time as, about the time of this intercept, this notation is made. It was reported from Zlatar, that's the Drina Corps headquarters, Vlasenica, where Serovich is the duty officer or on duty, that a triage of wounded and prisoners must be carried out, and that it was reported to Beara. So this is, now we know for sure that this conversation is between the Drina Corps and the Zvornik Brigade, that Beara is at the Zvornik Brigade, just in the vicinity of where the prisoners are to be executed. The executions started at Pilica in the morning, probably a bit before this, or about this time. All right, then lastly, I want to go to an intercept of August 2nd. And as you recall, when we briefly got into the Jepa events, the Jepa men refused to surrender, and instead they went wholesale across the Drina to Serbia. They didn't feel they could make it the BIH territory, so they went to Serbia instead. And there was a big effort by the Krstić and the main staff to get at those people, and this is what this intercept is about, between Krstić and Popović. And Krstić says, yes. Popović says, hey, boss. Popović knows who his boss is. Krstić says, go ahead. Popović says, Beara just called me. He came back from there this morning. Krstić, yes. He said he reported to Militic. Krstić, yes. There are about 500 to 600 of them over there. This is a reference to the prisoners that are over in Serbia now. Krstić, did you understand me, man? What do we have to do with them up there? Popović, it's like this. They don't allow anyone to talk to them at all. Is that clear to you, Popović? Popović, yes. Krstić, you and Kosarić, straight to Banja Basta. Banja Basta is where they are. That's the town in Serbia right across the river. If you remember, Kosarić is the intel officer that works closely with Popović. Do what you are supposed to do, Popović. He tells me you'll go there for nothing. This means Beara. They say, look, you'll go there for nothing. Krstić, get in touch with Marković, the commander of the battalion. Popović, yes. I want you to bring me Turks back here. Is that clear, man? Popović, well, everything is clear to me, except that they won't give them. Krstić, well, do you mean they won't give them? Well, they won't give them. Krstić, there are Turks, man. Popović, well, the MUP doesn't allow any access. Krstić, what? Popović, the MUP doesn't allow any access. Do you understand? Krstić, I'll turn the gun barrels on them. Do you understand? Popović, understood. Krstić, that's it. Go there as soon as possible. Popović, understood. Krstić, go on. Good. Bye. Bye. This is the commander and his security officer dealing with Muslim prisoners that they want to get and bring back to Bosnia. Now, we don't believe that they're going to bring back 500 or to 1,000 people from Serbia and kill them. So, but they certainly are making a huge effort to get them. This is an indication that, of course, the Jepa men fled to Serbia. Krstić wants them back. Krstić and Popović working together as they had done all through the murder operation to deal with prisoner issues. It shows how sort of rabid Krstić is about this, and Popović is trying to tell him, look, the Serbs are just not giving him back.
Yes, one
Excuse
moment,
me, Your
Mr.
Honor, but it is not, the reference is not correct in 17 row. This is not, these are not the Popović words.
In other words, you are...
I want you to bring me Turks back here. It is Krstić words.
Line 17.
That's correct.
Yes,
That's what I said.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you in agreement or in disagreement?
Yes, that's what I said, and I guess the transcript, I've been talking a bit quickly.
Right.
We are in agreement. That was Krstić, the man that was a bit on the rabid side.
Okay,
of
so
that.
there is no problem. Okay, let's proceed. Thank you.
So we've switched here to Popović, of course, Militic, Krstić, and as well as Beara are involved in this intercept, again, showing the same kind of involvement we saw through the murder operation. Now let me go to Lieutenant Colonel Popović, Lieutenant Commander of the Security Branch, the Drina Corps. He was...
One moment, Mr. McCloskey, just to have this clear in my mind. In this last document that you've been referring to, namely an intercept of August the 2nd, which I understood you were referring to in relation to accused Beara. There is a certain Popović mentioned, who is one of the interlocutors. Is that according to you, the accused Popović that we have here, or?
Yes, it is, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
okay, all right. Just want to make that clear. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
that is our interpretation of that.
you. All right. Thank you.
Okay, and so as I mentioned, that intercept happened to be one of those documents that wrapped in quite a few people. But now let's go to some examples of the Popović material. Popović was with General Krstić on the 11th and Mladić and Pandurović, and as they came through Srebrenica. And so I have a series of photographs just to show you where Mr. Popović was at certain times. This first photograph is a still from a video that you'll see. You see Krstić on the far left. Popović is in the t-shirt with the rifle in his right hand. Pandurović that's when Pandurović is talking to Mladić about getting to Browning up on the top of the hill. And so they're having a bit of a discussion about that, very short. But that shows that Popović is there with these guys on the 11th of July, involved in the entry into Srebrenica. Okay, the next shot is a shot where on the 12th of July, where it's after the 12th of July meeting at the Hotel Fontana, General Krstić is giving an interview to the Serb press right across the street from the Dutch Bat compound, telling the Serb press that all is fine and everyone will be allowed to leave. And there's buses and trucks going by getting ready to take the women and children away. The men are soon to be separated, and the violence is occurring as this video is being shot, but mostly behind buildings and other places at this time, as you'll hear from the Dutch Bat witnesses. But if you look over the left shoulder of Krstić, you will see Lieutenant, it's a fuzzy picture, but you'll hear evidence that this is in fact Lieutenant Colonel Popović with him on the 12th of July in Potočari as the events are unfolding. Okay, the next photograph. I guess I've got this slightly out of chronology because this occurred just before the last photograph. This is the front of the Hotel Fontana the morning of the 12th of July right before the meeting at 10 o'clock that Mladic had with the Dutch battalion, with the Muslim representatives, and with various other civilian representatives. This is where Mladic said he wanted to screen people for war criminals 16 to 60. And he told the Muslims it was up to them whether they wanted to survive or disappear. So right before this meeting, these folks, as you look to the left of the screen, the man with his hand on his right hip and the mustache is Momir Nikolic. The man next to him going to the right is Radoslav Jankovic. He is an intel officer, just arrived not long before this from Serbia, but is now a senior intel officer with the VRS. And he spoke some English. That's one reason why he was there. Then we have a bodyguard of Mladic. And then on the far right, we have Vujadin Popović. Okay, so as we go into the meeting at the Hotel Fontana, you can see Vujadin Popović drinking the water. As you look at the screen, to his left is a man that I believe is the media affairs officer, Milutinovic. I'm not exactly sure on that right now. That picture is one we've had difficulty identifying. The person at the end of the table is Radoslav Jankovic. Going on the other side, the person next to Popović is Miroslav Deronic, the head of the party in Bratanac, who you'll be hearing from. Then next to Deronic is Dragomir Vasic, the chief of the CSP Zvornik. Then the person who's all we see is the back of his head, that's Major Boering of Dutch Bat. There's a Muslim woman next to him. That is the person. But at this key meeting, here again we have Popović. Now, if we could go to a notebook of 15 July, the duty officer's notebook of the Zvornik, last four digits 9356. Thank you. There's a note that the duty officer, Nenad Simic, who was the Zvornik Brigade morale, legal and religious affairs person at the time, wrote down this note that Drago and Lieutenant Colonel Popović are to report to Major Golic early in the morning. Again, that is Drago, Nikolic, and Popović reporting on the work they're doing. And on the 15th of July, their work was dealing with the prisoners in the Zvornik Brigade zone and murdering them. Okay, then a little bit later on the 15th, Drago Nikolic took over as duty officer, and we know this from a handwriting example and some other evidence. And so on that same page, if we could blow up the part that says requests. First Battalion. This is done in Drago Nikolic's hand, and there's a request from the 1st PB. That means 1st Battalion. That is the battalion that is responsible for the area of Pilica, and that's where some 2,000 prisoners are being held at this time. And they need 50 liters of oil, that's diesel oil, and 20 liters of gasoline. And that's for the transport of troops to Kula. Kula is at the school where the prisoners are being held at this time. Kula is this tiny little village. You can hardly call it a village, and there's a school there. So on the 15th of July, they're transporting 1st Battalion troops to Kula. There's only one reason you transport troops to Kula, and that's to guard the some 1,500 or more Muslims that are there. So here we have the 1st Battalion having to spend resources and time when on the 15th of July the Muslims are hitting them from both sides. This is the problem that Pondorovich was dealing with, but this is his people doing what they have to do to keep these prisoners, not let them go, but to keep them and kill them. There are also 10 crates of 7.62 ammunition. 7.62 ammunition is the ammunition that goes into the automatic rifle known as the AK-47 that was the principal rifle used in the mass executions. The 10 crates for the 1st Battalion were very likely for the murder operation. The 1st Battalion area was way up north. The column never got there. There wasn't much pressure from the 2nd Battalion. The mere coincidence that they need that many crates at that time when they're going to need to spend almost all day murdering prisoners. The 10th Sabotage Detachment doing most of the trigger pulling, but with the bullets from Vinko Pondorovich. All right. The next one is 16 July. And if we could, it is another notebook entry. And this is Milorad Turbich is the duty officer taking these notes down. And we could blow up the middle part where it starts with 0855 hours. Golich asked Popović to call him and said that he can forget what he asked for and what he wrote about. He knows what he's supposed to be doing according to the agreed procedure. Boss from Panorama 01. Message conveyed to Popović at 9:10. Okay, well this, remember, is the duty officer notebook from Zvornik. So this means Popović is in the Zvornik Brigade zone, and the duty officer has the ability to convey this message to Popović. It's not clear what Popović asked for, but what is clear that he is told by the superior command that, and I quote, he knows what he is supposed to do according to the agreed procedure, in parentheses, boss from Panorama 01. Panorama is the code name for the main staff, and when they talk about the commander of a whatever unit, they refer to him as 01. So 01 for Zlatar, the Drina Corps, is Krstić. 01 for Panorama is Mladic. 01 for Zvornik is Pondorovich. So whatever this is about, Popović is told on the 16th to get to your job and the procedure that was agreed on by Mladic. And that was conveyed to him. There was only one thing at this point that Popović was working on in the morning, and that was organizing the murders. Okay, now, and related to that, we have an intercept. It's dated 16 July, and it's between the Zlatar duty officer and the Palma duty officer. Now, Palma is the code name for Zvornik. They didn't change these names, and so these were pretty much present all throughout, well, a good part of the war, certainly 1995. And what this is about is Popović needs diesel fuel to carry on the work that he's doing. And fuel at the time in Bosnia was like gold. It was hard to get, and they took very careful accounting of fuel. And so the reason this rises to the level of a conversation is because it's such a commodity that is difficult to find and absolutely critical for a murder operation. We have at this time some 1,000, 1,500 people to 2,000 people at the Kula School and the Pilica Cultural Center. At 10 a.m., they're being bused and trucked to the Branjevo military farm a few kilometers away. You'll probably get to do this drive. it's not snowing on us. And you need lots of fuel to run buses back and forth, back and forth. A bus takes about 50 people, 60 people, a little more if you really jam them in, but you need fuel for that. This is the work Popović is doing, and you'll see this when we take a look at this. Hello, Zlatar, give me the duty officer. Yes, Palma duty officer speaking. 500 liters of D2 for Lieutenant Colonel Popović. Zlatar, for Lieutenant Colonel Popović? Yes. Line disconnects, they have to do it again. The duty officer at Palma. What do you want? I want to talk to the Zlatar duty officer. Hello, how did you get connected here? Hello, is that Popović? What? Is that Popović? Just a moment. Hello, is that Popović? Yes, it is. Popović is the logistics officer for the Drina Corps. He is the man that would be distributing fuel. The guys at Zlatar didn't understand well. I asked for the duty officer, you know. Yes, Lieutenant Popović is here at Palma, here at Zvornik, you know. And the person says, what? Popović is at Palma. And then the person says, yes. This is Popović that says yes. And then the Palma duty officer says, 500 liters of D2 are urgently being asked for him, or else the work he's doing will stop. Now it's 13:58 hours. The murder operation at Braniewo has begun. It's 10, 11 o'clock, and is continuing with the buses going back and forth, bringing people to be executed. Popović, well, fuck him. Don't you have 500 liters of oil? They're asking for 2 tons loaded. Well, I don't know. He just called me from the field and told me to pass you the message over there. From the 1st Battalion near Pilica, you can't call directly on a military line to the Vlasenica Drina Corps headquarters. You've got to go through the line that they have directly to the Zvornik Brigade headquarters where you get the duty officer. That's why there's this exchange going on. Then Popović, 2 tons of oil are arriving now at your place. You can't find oil. Should I deliver it to them by helicopter? Well, then get in touch with Rochevich. Don't know what that means. Is Major Golic there by chance? Yes. Let me talk to him. So Palma now wants to talk to Golic, who we've heard about. So, Golic, Pop, and that's Popovic's nickname. You'll hear that a lot. Golic, Pop just called me and told me to contact you. 500 liters of D2 have to be sent to him immediately, otherwise his work will stop. Yeah, man. Yeah, 500 liters or else his work will stop. Go on right away. Gee, bye. Immediately after the end of this conversation, Palma says, a bus loaded with oil is to go to Pilica village. That's it. Okay. So yes, there's been reference to his work. Yes, we know he's in Zvornik, and now we know that the fuel is to go to Pilica village. 500 liters. No, it should go with its fuel tank from the vehicle battalion. So it's separate? Yes, it should be separate. And then there is, but Lieutenant Colonel Kuzmanović over at your place has to call the vehicle battalion here. Kuzmanović is a Drina Corps logistics guy. Okay, so at the very same time of this intercept, let's now go to the duty officer notebook. It's the next exhibit. And there's a notation at 1400 hours. And to recall, this intercept was 1358 hours. So, and again, this is Turbic, who's the duty officer. At 1400 hours, Popović requested a bus with a fuel tank and 500 liters of D2. Zlatar, duty officer, and Golic informed. Okay, so these 2 intercepts put together with a reference to Pilica and what we know is going on is an absolute smoking gun. It shows beyond any reasonable doubt that Popović is involved in doing his job, which is organizing for the transportation of the Muslim men from Kula to be murdered at Braniewo. There's also another document. It's a Zvornik receipt document that actually is the receipt for 500 liters of fuel with Popović's name on it and Pilica mentioned again. But absolutely solid evidence, clear, unambiguous, that this man is doing his job, transporting people to their deaths. Okay, another entry from the book, the notebook. This is on 16 July. And this is a message. It's noted down in the middle of in this notebook that there's a message from Zlatar that Lieutenant Colonel Popović must go to Vinko Pandurović in the field at 1640 hours. The message through the 1st Battalion that Popović must report to the duty officer so he can be sent on to a task by Zlatar. So this shows us that Popović is indeed at the 1st Battalion area because that's where messages are being sent to get to him. And it shows that Zlatar has something in mind for him and that he must go to see Pandurović in the field. Now, you'll hear from other evidence that this is about the time that, that Vinko Pandurović had opened up a corridor for the Muslim column to go through. And this information leaked out through the police and was eventually found its way to the main staff, to the president's office. And so you'll see the evidence that the main staff and the president are very concerned that someone has opened a column up and let them through. And Pandurović did this on his own without approval. After, as I mentioned yesterday, some 50 of his troops and MOOP soldiers were killed in this massive swarm of people. And the Drina Corps and the main staff want reliable information of what is going on. And so to see what this commander may be up to, and so who do they send but a security officer? Naturally, they're the ones that are looking into what commanders do. So they have Popović in the field, they get him, they send him out to the forward command post, away from his job at Pilica, where he actually sees some of the results of this awful battle, and he reports back on the results up to the Corps and about how awful it was. And he also talks about a bit in that conversation about the murder operation. But that's what that's about, but that provides us important information about the whereabouts of Popović, what he's doing, what Vinko Pandurović is doing, and that ties into the genocide in that the main staff, the Corps, wanted to get everybody. They did not want this column out. They could not understand why anybody would open a column. Pandurović was faced with the reality of more deaths from his soldiers, opened up the column and told his people about it later. And as you'll see, the main staff sent some senior officers a day or two later to find out and investigate this because they weren't at all pleased. But as a result, I think they came back satisfied that Pandurović, under the circumstances, had done the right thing by opening up the column. Okay. Mr. Nikolic. As you recall, or may recall from yesterday, we first see Mr. Nikolic when he calls Dragan Obrenović from the forward command post and says, I've just received a call and thousands of Muslim prisoners are coming. We have to house them and kill them. And I won't go through that with you again. But as I said, he was able to be relieved and go attend to his duties to the Muslim prisoners. And if we go to what is called the forward command post logbook, the Zvornik Brigade has a forward command post, and they keep a logbook, and we have translated the sections that appear to be relevant. We note, and I'll take you to that exhibit now, 13, this section, if you could blow up that middle one, Janet, that's 13 July. And it's Major Galich, who is one of the officers of the Zvornik Brigade, and he writes, "I took over duty, unscheduled, in parentheses, from Lieutenant Drago Nikolic at 2300 hours. Last night was relatively quiet with individual attacks by enemy forces from these various places, but there were no losses or damages." So what we see is in the evening, after the time that Obrenović tells us he receives the call, we actually have Major Galich making an unscheduled substitution for Drago Nikolic, corroborating Dragan Obrenović's testimony, and it's clearly a normal reaction. They've got hundreds of Muslim prisoners that are now arriving. We know that from Survivor, and Nikolic has to go deal with it. So he gets an unscheduled relief from a very important post, the forward command post. Okay, the next document is a logbook entry for a vehicle that belongs to the military police. And if we could, that's the front of it showing that it's Zvornik Brigade military police book, but if we could go to the next section, that's the blank one, it should be the next one after that, that actually talks about the dates. And if we could blow up the 13 July part, both pieces, they're 2/13 July, thank you. And it shows this vehicle on the 13th of July going to the little village of Orahovac, then to Zvornik, then back to Orahovac, then Standard, which is the name of the, excuse me, the Zvornik Brigade headquarters, and then down to Bratanac. Bratanac, where at the 13th of July, you know, the prisoners are being held. They have not been transferred en masse yet until the evening of the 13th, and this is shows the involvement that the MPs are obviously having at key locations. And if we go on to the next page that shows the 14th through the 17th, this becomes very clear. Here's another shot, but it's the same vehicle, and it's just a continuation if you go to the next page. And if we could blow up basically the 14th through the 17th, if that's possible. But you look at the trips, you'll recognize Standard on the 14th, Standard Orahovac, Orahovac Rocevic, Orahovac Zvornik, Standard Local. 14th of July, that's when the prisoners are there being killed. Prisoners are going to Rocevic at the same time. 15 July, Karakai, Rocevic, Local, Standard, Divic, Zvornik. So now, 15 July, Rocevic, that's the key time for Rocevic. And then we look also at the 15th of July, Standard, Kozluk. It's where people are being killed. Kozluk, Standard, Rocevic, Kozluk. So they're all over Kozluk and Rocevic, these tiny little places, on the key day that people are being killed. So they're monitoring that. 16 July, Kula, tiny little village next to the village of Pilica, Local, Standard, Kozluk, that's where they're being buried at that time. Rocevic, maybe there's prisoners still at the school. Pilica, back to Pilica on the end of the day. And 17 July, they go down to Kravica. Don't know why they're going down there then. But now I can't put Drago Nikolic in this vehicle, but it's clearly a military police or security vehicle. He would be directing the military police. He would know what they're up to and what they're involved in. It would be his job to direct them and to organize them. And you'll hear from some of these military police officers that have identified Drago Nikolic at Orahovac and involved in these events. Another document related to the military police is a roster, which I will show you a photocopy of the Serbian version, or the Zvornik Brigade version, partial part of it. Not that section, but it's the one with the names. I think you've got it there. Okay, this is a roster of the military police company that Drago Nikolic had responsibilities over. And what you'll see from an expert report, and I'll show you the actual original document. We don't normally need to bring in original documents, but this one I will bring in for you unless we get a stipulation. This shows about 12 to 14 members of the military police on the day of 14 July. And you can see in the original version that the lettering that's noted in the box has been changed. And from O to T. And then on the back of the document, you'll see a little legend. And it says, T is terrain, which means being out in the field. And then you see erased by pencil erasures O/Orahovac. So what we see in this document is about 12 or 14 MPs that have been originally had an O next to their name at Orahovac. It's been erased and T has been put over the top. And then I think there's 6 or 7 on the next day, on the 15th, where R has been erased and T has been put over the top of that. And that means R is for Rocevic and they put T over the top. This is the unit that Drago Nikolic is responsible for. This is a clear indication, and you'll hear from testimony of people that were there at Orahovac, that they were there, and this is an effort to cover it up, all of which Drago Nikolic would have known about and been part of. All right, one last document that I'm not going to go into in detail. And that is a document related to the story I told you about. And this document is dated 26 July. It's under the hand of Drago Nikolic, and it's to the military prosecutor in Bijeljina. It's entitled Collaboration with Enemy, Report Delivered to. And then it goes into explaining how after Srebrenica these people were captured and they were assisted by a couple of Zvornik officers, and that and then they were prosecuted. This is one of many documents related to that very grim affair where, after being used as witnesses against Serbs, these men were killed. Drago Nikolic was part of that. He knew about it. He's responsible for it. This also shows us that there is an active system in place to punish people for doing wrong. And I haven't said anything about it at this point, and I won't say much, but they had a clear system in place to prosecute wrongdoers. No one was ever prosecuted for this. Vinko Pandurovic did nothing to prosecute or investigate or do anything. Neither did Mr. Borovchinin. It was their duty to do so. They did not. It's clear as a bell. So that ends the many of the critical documents of the case where this case will largely be tried. These documents, these intercepts, the testimony from the various witnesses, especially the insider witnesses that will go directly to the acts or conduct of the accused. But let me just say some final words. When criminal orders originate from the top, they spread downward like a disease, infecting most of all the people of positions of power and authority, tasked with carrying out those orders. It doesn't have to be that way, because following criminal orders is not an imperative. A soldier becomes infected when he does so under his own free will. It is not like a disease. It's not infectious. You do it when you choose to do it. For a soldier, especially an officer, is different. He is first and foremost a creature of duty, a creature of honor, and a creature of code. There's no important human job in our society. They are the men that protect us and protect our homes, and they live by a very strict and important code that this tribunal is mandated to enforce. These men received that training. They know the difference between good and evil. They chose wrongly. Their duty tells them loudly and clearly that they must not embrace criminal orders. Every soldier has a choice. He can pick up the phone or the gun and do the bidding of men like Mladic, or he can choose not to follow the orders and stand down. Call the ICRC. Get out of town. Ruin your career. This, of course, creates a tremendous strength of character and courage, none of which these accused in court today possessed. Where they lost their honor, I don't know. Probably early on in this ethnic war. Only they know that. When you're considering the issue of intent, please remember each of these men willfully and voluntarily chose to support these awful crimes with the knowledge that their contribution would play a significant and crucial role in the commission of those crimes. The only way we will get into the minds of these accused is through their actions and statements. Your Honors, I believe you may, and in fact should, based on the evidence, infer that these men intended the known results of their conduct. The evidence in this case will provide you with no reasonable alternative. This is not a case of mere aiding and abetting. If this tribunal is to stand up to impunity, it must require that men are responsible for their actions. Okay. In conclusion, I want to take you briefly back to the victims to remind us all of them, why we're here in the first place. To do this, I want to share with you the words of a woman from Srebrenica named Mirsada Maligic, whose words I will never forget. She testified in the Krstić case. Near the end of her testimony, Judge Rodriguez told her that she would have to stay another day. As you know, that happens. And he suggested she go out and see a bit of The Hague. And so she did that. And when she came back and finished her testimony, this is what she told us. And think about genocide when you hear what she said. Yesterday afternoon, when I returned from here, I went out to walk around your city. That is what I wanted to tell you. I couldn't really see much, but what I really liked, what caught my eye, was a monument that we visited, and that monument was to women. That is, women awaiting sailors who never came back. And the monument to those wives touched me profoundly. I should like to find this statue and take it to Bosnia with me. Perhaps it could be likened to mothers and wives of Srebrenica who have been waiting and hoping for all those years, except that we followed different roads. We could turn to our empty forest. We saw our sons, our husbands off to those woods and never found out anything about them again, whether they were alive or dead, where their bones are lying. Many mothers have died hoping against hope, and it's quite possible that all the mothers would end up like that because their numbers are dwindling every day. Mirsada lost her husband Salko, her two sons Elvir and Admir. Admir was only 16. Her father-in-law Omer, both Salko's brothers Osman and Daspor, her nephew Samir, and this wasn't unusual. Many lost and suffered more. The loss of these men and boys and the crippling of those left behind can be simply put. It is a Bosnia genocide we must never forget. Thank you.
I thank you, Mr. McCloskey. Just for a moment so that we'll discuss something.